What's up, everybody? The mic is working. Okay, good. I just had to restart my computer. We almost didn't have a video today. So I'm pumped to be here with you because there was a nasty thunderstorm and lightning storm, which is not unusual for Clearwater, Florida, but all the power went out. So it happened right. I was on Megan Kelly actually, and all the power went out right in the middle of the spot that I was on. We were able to get through all of our Koberger stuff, which I think is the main reason why they have me on there. I missed all the Trump stuff. Too bad, so sad. But it was interesting. It was a good time. It's always a good time. It's always kind of fun hearing different opinions and debating things with people. Viva Frey was on as well. A lot of you know him and love him. He's really funny. There was a lot of hair in that video. So thank you for joining me. Sorry I'm a couple minutes late, but I am just glad that we are here. And today we are going to jump into some very salacious accusations made by the attorney for the victims in this Gilgo case, the Long Island serial killer case. It is something that's very unusual that you don't hear. He is literally attacking the defendant's family. And if you remember from Koberger and from some of the other cases we've covered, we say, usually that's a no-no. Usually you don't go after the family. Usually you have to, have some very real evidence that they were involved. Not to say they could never be involved, but just because one person is doing something does not mean the family knew, doesn't mean the family was in on it. But he uses words such as this was a criminal enterprise, a large criminal enterprise. She should be considered a suspect and not just a bystander or someone who's been victimized by her husband. Sorry, the videos just started playing. So there's also this incredibly loud thing happening right outside my window, which I don't know if you guys can hear. Hopefully you can't. But these accusations are more than just everybody should be looked at as a suspect. We don't know who did what. We're still information gathering and all of that. Okay. Because these are direct and he says he has a witness. We're going to hear from him. And then we're also going to hear from the lawyers of Rex Heuermann, the defendant's family, wife and kids. They're adult kids. They have separate attorneys. And their representations are also interesting to me, both on Cuomo. So we're going to listen through these together and we're going to figure out what we think, right? And do we think there's some legitimate evidence there? Do we think it sounds like they're blowing smoke? Do we think that, if we read between the lines or look at what people aren't saying, do we find any issues? And something he brings up is the GoFundMe. Do you think it's interesting that the family has gotten $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in GoFundMe money? And I've seen reports that the mother is suffering or his wife is suffering from cancer. They're suing for insurance that he would have had through work that she should have been entitled to for medical bills. A lot going on with all of this. And it's really sad because so many people are affected. The ripple effect happens. And it's very difficult to sift through sometimes, especially when you have lawyers basically putting their reputations on the line, saying that something is true when it seems hard to believe. So we're first going to start with the victim's attorneys and his accusations, basically. And then we will hear a response. And let's keep an open mind when we hear things. We'll comment on it, what it means, what it's indicative of. Oh, I didn't even say, hit that like button, please. So many of you sent this to me. We've also got Sarah Boone wrote another letter. I'm going to do a video on that we're going to play tonight. So stay tuned for that. A ton of you sent that to me on Twitter as well. So hit that like button, subscribe, hit the reminder bell so you don't miss any of the videos that we put out. We've got a lot coming this week and in the coming weeks, but it's honestly just a good time to hang out with you guys, get your opinion on stuff like this, because this is a big part of the public and society in today's day and age with GoFundMes. We saw the Carly Russell story where GoFundMes can go bad basically when the public, out of the goodness of their heart, helps people they think need help. And then it turns out maybe we're wrong sometimes. And that sucks too. And just throwing out those accusations and making people look bad for having a GoFundMe. That's something we're dealing with today that I'll tell you we did not deal with 10 years ago. That was not a collateral source that victims collected from 10 years ago. That is something we have to put in our answers today. If our clients collect from a GoFundMe and we're saying they were damaged and lost this amount of money or lost these wages, well, if they got 50,000 in GoFundMe, that could count potentially towards a recovery to help with those lost wages, or maybe something a jury could consider. Very, very interesting. Yeah, some of you are sending me the Michael Orr story. I'm getting a lot of that from my friends as well. The Blind Side football player saying that the adoption story was all a lie. I really haven't looked into that yet, but that could have some huge ramifications. Some huge ramifications. All right, let's get to the victims' lawyers. If you remember, we heard a lot from Shannon Gray, the victims' lawyers from the Idaho 4 case. We talked a lot about what a lawyer for a victims or for victims in a criminal case, what their role is. Apparently, he's been on the case for quite a long time. And the other lawyers throw some accusations at him. So we'll listen and think about all that as we. Somebody said Carly Russell didn't have a GoFundMe. I thought that was one of the big problems, is that there was a big GoFundMe. Maybe it was to try to help her find her or something like that. But I just mean there are cases where GoFundMes go bad. If Carly Russell didn't have one, I didn't mean to bring up that hoax story that she admitted to later. And is dealing with legally now. So, all right, let's get to it.
All right, vet counsel joins me now. Counselor, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you taking the opportunity. You said these things very vehemently.
I just want to say real quick, Chris Cuomo, to say thank you for taking the opportunity. An interesting word when we hear the accusations levied at this lawyer later. He said, thank you for taking the opportunity for this interview, which I thought was interesting language.
But not only do we not have proof of what you're suggesting, the authorities say otherwise. They say that the wife was not in town at the time and that they do not believe the wife was aware of what was going. What do you know that they don't?
Well, several things I know. And they said that. I don't say now that they still say that. They said that at the very beginning of this investigation, but other things have developed.
So his first statement is, and that's the first thing that came to my mind. I thought the part of the proof that this was Rex Heuermann, that the state was using, that he was hiding it from his wife because his wife and his family was gone every time one of these crimes was committed. And that's even more proof that he was calculated and this is how he would do it and plan it and premeditate it. But now this victim's attorney is saying that's actually maybe not true anymore. I know they said that at first, but are they still saying it now? Things have developed and happened that I'm not so sure that's where law enforcement and the state attorney's office stands. That seems like something we could answer pretty easily.
I have a witness, a very credible witness who I spent many hours with to interview. And from that witness, as well as from the circumstances of this case, I know that Mrs. Ellerup is conning the public right now with this press conference and the rest that she pulled off to say that she's in need of money. She is not. And furthermore, she is complicit in her husband's solicitation and use of sex workers in his home over the course of years, many of them. And
so again, now she is complicit in the use of sex workers in their home. So that's different than being an accessory to these kind of charges that she is dealing with. He also said she's conning the public. Very strong language here. Very strong language.
She, in this tiny little home where she lived and he lived, she was upstairs when he would be downstairs having sex with these prostitutes. And he spent enormous amounts of money on them. And it was a regular thing that happened. And she's now, after 27 years of marriage, in the age of computers and cell phones, when you know where everybody is at all times, didn't know about what her husband was up to downstairs. That's just nonsense. There's 2 out of the 3 hairs that are found on the wrappings of the bodies are hers. That alone puts her in the circle of suspicion. And if the police come out and said, as they did, well, she had an alibi, well, maybe not once we start to study these cases a lot more carefully. But she was...
Well, maybe not. maybe not, or is it not true? And I wouldn't disagree with him that she would be in the circle of suspicion if her DNA and hair was found on the bodies. I agree with that, but it sounds like they have an explanation for that.
Complicit, as you heard me say.
Forensic.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I hear what you're saying, counselor. I just want, no, not at all. Just want to put some meat on the bones of this, because it's, you know, it's such a sensitive and damaging thing to say, because, you know, you got this family that may be as traumatized as anybody else. What I have heard from not just the perspective of authorities, but the forensic experts, is if he had these victims in the house, it's not surprising that you would find DNA from the wife or hair from the wife. It's her house. But how do you know that she was, as you say, complicit in his activity with sex workers? Who is this witness that you have who would know something like that?
I have a witness who has refused to identify herself publicly at this time. I just spoke with her very recently, and she is a very, very credible witness. I say that from 40.
She's a very, very credible witness, but I can't tell you who. And then now he's about to say, I put my 41 years of practice on it. Now, to some lawyers, that means a lot. To others, it doesn't mean much, right? And how many times do you throw your, you know, how long you've been doing it as your credibility? I don't know. I don't know this guy from Adam. But to me, that sounds like a very legitimate credibility argument. Like, I've been doing this 41 years. I don't want to lose my license. I'm not going to do something that's disbarable. I have a witness, and this is what the witness says. Now, what kind of witness could this be? I guess another sex worker. But even if it is, and the other sex worker's like, yeah, the wife used to watch. I'm just totally making that up, okay? But let's just say that's what she says, and that's who this witness is. How does this witness know what he did with the others? How does he know? How does this witness know it wasn't a one-time thing? And how does this witness know what happened with the people that the victims of these actual crimes? And that his wife was complicit in that, not just some kinky stuff or whatever they did in their marriage. I've got a lot of questions for this, and Chris Cuomo does too.
And she is a very, very credible witness. I say that from 40. I pull rank, I guess, is how I'm making the argument. I know that could be a fallacy, but it also could be truthful. And that is that in my 41 years of experience.
I know that it could be a fallacy. So it could be false, but could also be true. Not the best way to make an argument. I'm going to say this, and it could be false, but it could be true. Point is, though, guy's been doing this for 41 years. If he says she's a credible witness, that at least carries some kind of weight.
As a trial attorney and litigator, I tested her using the usual tests for truth, and she tested out fine. So I'm perfectly willing to share.
When do the rest of us get to?
It's a good question. But he said, I've tested her in ways that I trust, and she tested out fine. Does that mean a lie detector test? She passed a lie detector test? Just inadmissible, but it's like, is that what you mean? If you mean a lie detector test, why don't you just say a lie detector test? Or is it just your gut feeling test? It is too vague for my liking. And Chris Cuomo was like, when do the rest of us get to know who it is?
Pardon me?
When do the rest of us get to meet this person and test their credibility and what they have to offer?
That's her choice. And right now, she's held me back from doing that. However, you know, she does exist, and she's real. And it stands to reason as well. What she tells me is completely consistent with the obvious, and it's the utterly improbable that she didn't know about what his.
It's very consistent with the obvious and utterly improbable that she didn't know. Those are interesting ways of saying what she's saying completely lines up with the rest of the facts and the truth as we know them, and the truth as law enforcement is reporting them. And that's fine. And I think that makes a good point, right? If she is credible, and if she is saying all of this, and she has real proof that the wife was there, and that's how her hair got there, then he could have a very key witness. And I think there's absolutely a chance that that's true. I think it's an interesting way of portraying it, and really throwing some haymakers here at the family, that if you're wrong, I mean, that's just brutal what you're doing to the family if you are wrong.
Shenanigans were in that house for all those years. It's just ridiculous. And she's,
all right, John Ray,
she's out there.
I appreciate you making the case. Anytime you want to come on with her or offer anything else, obviously you should go to the authorities first. I'm not suggesting otherwise. That's what matters most here. But you got a platform here to make the case. I've heard the accusation. I'd love to hear the proof. Okay?
Yeah, of course. And keep in mind that She's raised $44,000 in her GoFundMe account. She's not a victim. She is not a victim, nor are the other two adults that live with her victims.
I would jump in, but Cuomo is about to say, you know, what I think a lot of us are thinking right now.
Victims. The victims are
Well,
all dead.
Understood, but just because they weren't murdered doesn't mean they haven't been victimized by this situation. Their lives are colored forever for their connection to Rex Heuermann if these charges are sustained. All right, I got to jump. To be continued. To be continued, Mr. Ray. We'll speak again. All right.
So, again, are they official victims of the crime? No, but they are victimized by the situations, and their life is affected. And it's really a tough situation for them. And anybody feels for them if they weren't involved. I don't know, right? I don't know if they were involved or if they weren't. But you better believe that he has to have real evidence and a credible witness, exactly what he said, in order to make statements like that. And I see some people saying, isn't this, first off, wife did not set up that GoFundMe. That's true. Most people don't set up their own GoFundMes. That's true. So somebody else set it up for her. And, you know, saying it's a con job for somebody else to set it up is, oof, it's really, really tough. And then just to continue the conversation forward on, when you make accusations like this, a lot of people say, if he does have a witness that has told him things that make him believe that these are true, then I think you have a tough case for defamation, because you have to say things that you know are false or knew or should have known, right? And even, you know, being too flippant and not looking where you should have looked and looked at the facts and evidence that you should have seen and making these statements, fine. But if he thinks he has legitimate evidence to come on and say that, it's going to be tough for defamation. I think, even though it is horrible. And if he is wrong, hopefully he comes out and says, I was wrong. Now there's the per se deals because he's accusing them of crimes, kind of, I guess, complicit in the sex worker stuff. It's an interesting set of circumstances. So before we hear from the family's lawyers, let's get some questions answered. Alicia, thank you, Peter, for the awesome content. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. Oh, you told me how to say it. And is it just Kirsty? I think it's just Kirsty. Will they be able to sue? So, I mean, I think they could potentially sue for, like, you know, Gabby Petito type stuff, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligent infliction of emotional distress, stuff like that. I think it might be difficult for defamation. But again, and I don't think he said the kids as much as he said the mom or the wife, but I don't know. We'll see. Stella by the Sea, thanks for the super sticker. Tammy, if Rex told the lawyer, isn't the lawyer breaking attorney-client privilege? So first off, I don't think this helps Rex, right? Just because his wife is an accomplice doesn't mean he didn't do it. It'd actually be worse for him. People always wonder that about an accomplice. Like, if you say somebody helped you commit the crime, you're still saying you committed the crime. And at this point, he's saying he didn't do it and he's innocent, at least from what we've all seen publicly. But that doesn't help him. But let's say he did. He probably told his lawyer he could share it with him because he thought it's going to help him to put some of the blame on his wife and not him, I guess. But if he in fact told his lawyer, you know, you did not give his lawyer permission to share this information, then sure. But I think we're making a lot of assumptions there. Peter, do you think these kind of interviews lead to a gag order? I think they're potentially exhibits that could lead to a gag order. Because if you saw the safety and well-being of other people not involved or potential witnesses being quoted a lot in the Kohberger documents when talking about the gag order, this would be an exhibit of that they're getting caught in the crosshairs because of the media. If there was a gag order, he could file a motion with the court saying, you know, he probably couldn't because he represents the victims outside, but some kind of interpleader, non-party motion saying they need to investigate them, but most likely not. So they wouldn't get caught in the crosshairs. He could just report them to law enforcement and law enforcement could investigate them and it wouldn't be out here publicly with these accusations. So potentially this could be an exhibit in why they need a gag order in this case. Joanne, if he is proven wrong, can she go after him for defamation? So again, we've hit this one a couple times. If he is proven to know what he's saying is wrong and just doing it for money or just doing it for clout, as he's about to be accused of doing, then potentially there's a defamation case. Net Woman, this is the same attorney that blamed the doctor when Shannon Gilbert went missing. Thank you again, Peter, for doing these lives. Yes, some more context is going to be provided about him in the 4-minute interview we're about to watch with these other lawyers. Gil, your DNA at a crime scene doesn't mean you were there. I 100% agree with you, but it usually puts you in the circle of suspects, like he said. It does usually do that. Doesn't mean you were there. Doesn't mean you did it. Carly, if the victims wanted to sue, would the statute of limitations be told since the suspect wasn't found until now? Would Asia, I don't know how to say her name, the wife, be liable? So potentially, and many times there are, sorry, my eyes just started watering, like burning. Potentially there are exceptions to the statute of limitations if you don't know who committed the wrongdoing or what the wrongdoing was, or things that prevented the interest of justice for you to be able to sue the defendant. And this could potentially be one of those things. Or the statute of limitations could also apply. A lot of states don't have statute of limitations on murder charges or even on the civil side. So it depends on a lot of things. CJ, I always thought they cleared the wife too soon. How did they know what she knew? I assume they interviewed her. I assume they corroborated that she wasn't in town with plane tickets, credit card statements. I assume they did that stuff, but I don't know the answer. Patty D, why would she get divorced? To manipulate and hide her actions does not make sense. Well, I mean, I don't know. I could think of a lot of reasons why, but I don't know. I'm not in her head. I don't know why she did what. I don't know. Thank you, Kirsty. It just came to my head. I was thinking Kirstie Alley. Insomnia. Shannon could have been his regular and the wife met her. Sure. I think there are ways that this is plausible, but I would hope you'd have a lot of evidence to back up making accusations like this publicly. Welcome to A. Kemp. Myra. Kirsty, don't worry. He used to mispronounce my name and now he always gets it right. We love you for your realness, Peter. I do my best. And that's one of the hardest things about jury selection. Like that's why I don't care when people correct me. I want to get your names right. I can't promise I always will, obviously, because I read a ton of comments and questions every video. And some people obviously have screen names that aren't their real names. But when I pick a jury and it's good to try to remember their names or at least pronounce them correctly once they've corrected you. And usually you go with Mr. this, Ms. this, and, or first and last name. And it's a big deal. And I try my best to get those right. I'll ask, am I saying this right? If it's a difficult name like Kirsty's, or at least the spelling to me was difficult. So yes, thank you. All right. Now let's get to the attorneys for the victims' families and see what they have to say about it. Oh, before we get here, John just reminded me. So hold on a second. We are doing a giveaway. So we're going to start just giving away merch because we have the $250 in the 250K giveaway to still do. And so randomly during lives, you have to be in the live chat to win. And John's going to take down some names from the live chat and we'll randomly pick a winner. And then you have to give us your address if you want us to send it to you, if you want the merch. If you don't, just politely decline. But this is what we're giving away today. Because it is August, mid-August. We're getting close to September. Pumpkin spice lattes are out, or at least out soon. Pumpkin spice flavor of the coffee I get is out at Publix in the Starbucks jars or jugs. But it is far from fall here in Florida. The heat index was like 115 degrees. So tank tops are still sun's out, guns out weather at this point. So this is the giveaway in today's live. So all of you that are here have magically been entered to have a chance to win this tank top. All right. So John is going to randomly pick that and we will announce it at the end of the video. All right. So now let's get to this response.
All right, the lawyers for Rex Heuermann's family. Ves Matev, lawyer for his 2 adult children, and Robert Macedonio, attorney for Rex Heuermann's wife, Asa Ellerup. Macedonio, I'll bring you in first. What do you make of what is being suggested?
Chris, like I said earlier, John Ray is trying to keep himself relevant in this case. John Ray is the only one in this case that tends to benefit from any civil litigation. John Ray is trying to tie her into it so he can.
So hold on. I don't know everything about this case, right? I don't know everything about this case. They're going to make a lot of valid points. But to say that the civil lawyer is the only one that makes money on a civil wrongful death case, as if it is not the family members of the deceased victims, is disingenuous and loses credibility with me immediately. Now, I watched the whole interview, and I think they come back around and they make some valid points about this specific lawyer. But you guys know, I mean, this is a lot of what I do. And people could say, oh, it's just the lawyers looking for money. They're the only ones that get money. It's like, no, that's the point of the families, and that's how it's set up legally. And you still have to pay money in civil courts if you kill somebody and you don't leave your victim behind to collect. That's not how it works, right? So I just wanted to point that out. But they make some very valid points, especially based on this particular lawyer. So I wanted to make sure to point that out as we start.
Gather any assets she may or may not attain from the divorce. This mystery witness does not exist. I can assure you, Asa Ella was not involved in this, knew nothing about it. To simply say she was part of this conspiracy, the sex workers was going on downstairs.
There is no witness. That's as, bold as a claim, responding to an attorney that said there is a witness, calling him a liar straight out. Whoops, sorry. Somebody just asked a question I wanted to answer. Anne. The children are adults, so they need to have their own attorney. And more importantly, it sounds like the accusations are mainly coming against the mom. So if they could potentially become adverse from each other, meaning point the finger, or mom knew something kids didn't, or kids knew something mom didn't, you don't want to have the same lawyer on there who's conflicted off. So to avoid conflict, they have two separate lawyers. They could have signed conflict waivers and things like that, but this is the safest way to do it.
They live this lavish lifestyle, they spent all this money on sex workers. I've been to the house. I've seen the living conditions, and I looked at photos for the house prior to. There was no lavish lifestyle. There was no extensive amounts of money spent on sex workers. This is a fallacy in John Ray's head to keep himself relevant in this case. He spent 10 years in the media on this case. He's trying to monetize it in the civil action, and that's all this is all about. This mystery witness would have been found by Mr. Tierney's office, the grand jury, in the past 2 years they've been investigating this. They didn't have to say anything about her. They could have left her name out of it. They said she was out of the jurisdiction when.
He is completely right. They didn't have to mention the family. They didn't have to mention the wife at all. And oftentimes they don't. But they did. They made sure to say she was out of the jurisdiction, a la an alibi, and clearing her name. Now, in addition to that, just because she was gone doesn't mean she could have been an accomplice, right? I'm not saying that that's what that proves, but they did make an intentional comment to say the wife was not there.
When this happened, that they had to say nothing, Chris. This again is a fallacy.
I hear you.
John Ray to keep himself relevant.
I hear you.
This is John Ray to make himself relevant. It's a fallacy. I mean, I don't love this type of, if I'm just being honest, I don't love this type of lawyer comments. And I think both of them, I mean, they both seem like very seasoned lawyers, John Ray and then this attorney. I mean, if I was a judge, I would not like to hear these types of comments, mudslinging, literally going back and forth in the media. I would not like to hear that at all. I think people need to be called out if they lied. I hear people saying that in the chat, and I get that. But I don't love the way they're going about this.
Quick follow-up, and then I want to go to Vess about a different aspect of this. Have you asked your client if she knew that her husband was using sex workers in the house? And if so, what was her answer?
She's had no idea, Chris. If this existed and this went on, it was a complete double life she knew nothing about.
All right. Vess, the idea that Counselor Ray would make up a witness would absolutely stand to get him disbarred. Do you believe that he is making up a...
Absolutely stand to get him disbarred? I don't know. I think it should. I think most of us would say it should, but we get the weekly updates of the public reprimands and punishments and sanctions for lawyers. And you all, actually, you probably wouldn't, because you've been around for the Murdochs and the Tom Girardis and the other lawyer cases that we've seen in the news of what they do. But lawyers do some deplorable things. And I think some bars should be quicker to disbar them if they lie about having a witness and accuse an innocent person of a crime. I'm not saying that's what he's doing, but that's what he's being accused of here by these lawyers.
Witness here, or that this witness says certain things that go to the character or suspicions of the situation, but may not deliver the way he suggests?
Well, Chris, all I can tell you, I think it's a ham-fisted, porcine attempt to insert himself into a case that he actually has no involvement in whatsoever. And by the mere fact that us three are even talking about this now, it's a disservice actually to the victims in this case, and it's a disservice to the Heuermann family and to my clients as well. I mean, the mere fact that we're giving life to this absolutely insane conspiracy theory, which is all you can quantify it as at best. As Mr. Macedonio said, if this witness existed, she would have come forward. She wouldn't be hiding in the shadows. And again, it's I guess
that's not true either, right? Again, listen, regardless of whose side we're on or what we think, is whether this witness exists or not, that's not true either. If this witness existed, it does not guarantee she would come forward. Right now, she wants to remain anonymous. And maybe it's because she sees all the hate that this lawyer is even getting from talking about it. Maybe she doesn't want people to know she's a sex worker. Maybe she doesn't want her current clients to think that she rats out her clients. I don't know. I'm not in her mind, but I absolutely think that there are ways that she would not want to come forward. Yes, I am a personal injury lawyer. I don't know. Somebody, Asia said this, probably responding to somebody else. I'd like to find the comment that she responded to. Yeah, I am. I don't. Oh, here we go. Here's Cody's. John Ray has been dealing with this since the Shannon Gilbert case for years. I trust him more than these ambulance chasers. So I assume he's talking about these two lawyers. If he called me an ambulance chaser, that's fine. People have called me that in the past. Honestly, the ambulance chaser part is illegal because you can't chase ambulances, I'll just say, in Florida and solicit those cases. But if people are in an ambulance because of somebody else, then I think that somebody else should pay for it. I mean, that's the life, that's the world I live in, right? Is your life can literally get turned upside down and you can be completely screwed because of somebody else's action or inaction, and somebody has to foot the bill. So I just think the person who caused it should foot the bill.
It's part and parcel for people who seek media attention to want to get themselves in the case, but that's all it is. There's no substance there. Certainly none we can quantify or even think about. But in my opinion, and it's my opinion, obviously, there's just an attempt to engender some media frenzy in a case that he has nothing to do with, because it's not about him. It's about.
Well, it's not a case that he has nothing to do with, right? He definitely has something to do with it. No. I don't think that Cody was calling me an ambulance chaser at all, Cody. I wanted to make sure that you knew that. I don't think you were saying it at all. I just wanted to say I didn't know if these guys were PI lawyers as well. And that's a normal, it's a normal slight that comes our way. I don't take any offense to it at all. So when he says stuff like that as well, he's only seeking media attention. As he goes on the same show that he's accusing the other guy of seeking media attention from going on, I think trying to use the media is maybe a good quote that you can do, even if you're also going on the show, right, and responding. But when you're doing stuff like this and they're throwing haymakers back and forth on this show, a lot of people are saying what they think of Chris Cuomo. That has nothing to do with this. I'm just bringing in the fact that he had these interviews that I thought were very interesting. So hopefully we can get past all that and just listen to the interview. But I thought that was interesting as well.
The victims, and it's about the family.
Yes, I'll tell you what, as you know, we care about the victims in this case and their families and what's going on and getting to the truth of it. And the best way to deal with an allegation is to test it. Have him on, push him for his proof. Let's see if he presents it and give you guys an opportunity to check it. Vess, Robert, thank you both.
So I agree with that. Give him the opportunity to prove it. See if he brings the person forward, seeing if it's legit. Tori, I'm a teacher, as you know. A student's name is ABCDE. How do you pronounce it? I was corrected time and time again to pronounce Oh, you're saying that's correct. Ab City. I was like, what? Love you, Peter. Don't feel bad for messing up names. I do it daily. That's a real story. That's wild. Net Woman. If money for GoFundMe is for medical care and she has already filed for divorce, can other victims even have a claim to that? So there's a lot of it depends in here, but here's what I'll say. If they prove that she did something wrong or that she aided or was an accomplice here in this, then yes, they can go after the money from the GoFundMe. The fact that it's for medical bills doesn't necessarily protect it in most states, I should say. It's not like a retirement account or Social Security or a pension or things that are normally protected. Now, just because they sue Rex Heuermann, and if they get some money from him or a judgment against him, they would not have access to this money that was given just to her for medical bills. I assume at this point she's not commingling assets and funds with him anymore. Genji Probs. Hey, Lawyer fam, I had a heavy caseload post Murdoch. Finally caught up, and I'm making my way through stock trial, alternating trial days with Lawyer vids. Missed everyone. Hope everyone had a great summer. Yes, we have missed you too. And we're pumped you're back. Nicole, so many parts and victims to this case. I'm just confused on what's facts. Absolutely horrible how this went on for years. How do you not know what your husband's doing nowadays? I don't know, right? You don't know people's relationships. So I don't really try to guess at a lot of that. I don't try to, count other people's money, as they say. So there's a lot I don't know. I don't try to guess at. So I don't know how she wouldn't know. I think if they said they were together all the time and their phones were always paired, then I'd be like, okay, so she should probably know. But just regular life, I don't know the answer. And I think any case that there is so long between crime and arrest, there's going to be a lot of questions. Kurt, did that commentator just say ham-fisted portion attempt? How very sus. I don't know specifically if that's what he said, but they were definitely trying to use some hyperbole and colorful descriptions. And he's a lawyer. He's the lawyer for the Heuermann children, adult children, in the case. I'd love to know what you thought of this. No, I did not pick up the joke, Kurt. Ham-fisted portion attempt. I did not pick up the joke, which you're much funnier than I am and wittier than I am. Net, new crime alert. A judge for Orange County, California, shot and killed his wife last week after an argument, and he was drunk. He was released on $1 million bail. Is that normal? $1 million bail is high, but they probably knew the judge could pay it. So I don't know what the circumstances are. I don't know if it's a manslaughter charge or if it's first degree. There's a lot of different aspects to this that would ask whether or not it's normal. I would say it's probably more normal for somebody to not be let out, but again, ties to the community and all that. I don't know. I'd have to see more info to tell you whether or not it's normal. Alicia, thank you for the super sticker. Ooh, interesting. Z said Vez was the same law firm as John Ray. Conflict? Yeah, that would not be good, especially if you work for John Ray while John Ray had this case and would have potentially had some confidential information about these victims. That could be really problematic. I don't know that to be true, so I don't know. Michelle, first super sticker to say hello from Scotland, home of some of the best golf in the world, and I will say the best golf I've ever played. The best golf courses, but I haven't been anywhere, but I'll say from my perspective, the best. Okay. So very interesting spot we're at. People being dragged through the mud. Is it appropriate? Is it not? Even if she did do this, I do not think this is the right way. Not the way I would love to see it done, especially by other members of the bar, other practicing lawyers. Vez is the lawyer for the children. So the last person that spoke with the beard, that was Vez. Azam is probably sleeping. It's like 3:40 a.m. her time. So she'll probably be part of the rewatch crew. If you are Azam, let us know. Golf is so boring. Gosh, guys, just hitting me hard. Okay. So a couple announcements to finish. Podcast, episode 2, A Prosecutor's Right to a Fair Trial, dropped today on Spotify, iTunes, all of that. If you want to watch it on YouTube, it'll post on our podcast channel on Friday. So make sure you check that out. We brought in JD for the first time I think he's ever been on the podcast. He was on a YouTube video a while back. So JD, Pete, and I break that down. And the winner of the t-shirt is, John has sent me, Paige Willow. Paige Willow, you are the winner of the tank top. Email lawyeryouknow@gmail.com, and we will pick a backup that I will text John if Paige does not email us. We will pick a backup. I will reach out to the backup, and we will make sure to get the giveaway done. Uncivil said, the joke was the scientific name of a pig is sus. Okay, I did not know that. So I finished his twin pig related comment to satisfy the rule of threes. Deep cut pig joke. Is that bacon? I cannot be stopped. Right? That's what I'm feeling. Cat Yarb, when is the Meg Kelly going to air? So it was on SiriusXM Live, and then she usually clips out and posts it on her YouTube page. My guess is the second half, when I literally had to go into my conference room in front of a window because all the lights were out with just my cell phone for the second half of the show. My guess is none of those clips are going to make it onto YouTube, but you'll be able to tell the difference. If you see it, that would be funny, and comment on it. Be like, sorry, the thunderstorms ruined the video. But the first half, most of the Koberger stuff, she usually does some clip outs and then posts it on her YouTube over the next 2 or 3 days. So keep an eye out for that. Jesse Carter sending his first, or her, super chat. Thank you, Jesse. Okay. That's all I've got. I appreciate everybody joining me. As always, hit that like button on the way out if you haven't already. You guys always add a ton to this, so I appreciate your questions so much. It is the meat of the content, and I really enjoy getting to know what you think, what you see, what you hear as we break down things like this. And also make sure to check out the Sarah Boone letter. It's a different one. She has somebody else that's also been trying to get a hold of her attorney and what they say, and I dive into how often attorneys should talk to their clients and what rules are in place in certain jurisdictions. So make sure you check that one out, posting tonight, probably between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. Hit that reminder bell and you won't miss it. Hopefully YouTube alerts you. That's all I've got. I'm out of here until next time. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok @Tragos Law is our handle. And don't forget to listen to the Lawyer You Know podcast, featuring new episodes every week. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.